So today I had a great chat with a good friend of mine, Colin Payne, head instructor, owner of TKO Elite Kickboxing School in Chatham, Medway. I wanted to find out how you make a really good fighter, how you prepare a fighter perfectly for a fight, what would need to be done, what do you need to consider, and the whole process really. And Colin was really the guy to go speak to. He's been in martial arts since, I think, 1974. He's taught thousands of people martial arts, kickboxing. I think he's even been involved K1 and Kyoshinkai karate as well. So he really is the guy you need to speak to. So this is the chat I had with him today. Look forward, enjoy. Let me know if you got any questions and we'll follow them up in another podcast. Cheers, bye. Hi Colin, how you doing? You all right?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. So this is the Invicta Karate podcast, available on iTunes as well, believe it or not. I've got Colin on here today because Colin's kickboxing school has a great competitive history, produces a lot of competition fighters. And the thing that I've been interested in for some time is how do you prepare a fighter for a competitive bout? The whole process, mind, physicality, fitness, diet, nutrition, all that sort of stuff. So that's why I'm speaking to Colin today. So before we get going into that, Colin, can you just sort of go a bit into your history about what you've done and where your kickboxing's come from?
Yeah, I started in martial arts in 1974, and it's just been constant in my life ever since, really. Started in Wushu Chinese boxing, Kyoshin karate, a derivative of that for many years. I boxed as an amateur and competed under various formats, and it's just been a sort of long and ever-changing road for me, really. I started to teach in 1984. Like most people, especially back then, I taught in all sorts of god-awful places. Obviously, I did the run-of-the-mill, Churchill School or community centres, etc. Some of which were okay, but most of them were not. But it was the way we did things back then. Over many, many years, I evolved where I managed to get my own premises.
Yeah.
So I've been in my present location in Chatham for 16 years.
That's Chatham Medway, isn't it?
Chatham Medway, yeah. I had another gym as well, but I gave that up because I wanted to solely focus on the one gym. And so for the last 7 years, I think it is 7 years, I've been just overseeing one school. I'm so much more happier since I've done that. Yeah,
really been able to focus down on it.
Yeah, totally focus on one place. We were successful up to that point anyway, but since then we've, comparatively speaking, it's gone through the roof really. Our membership's doubled.
Wow.
So we got a good place down there, about 2,500 square feet.
Wow.
Teaching every age. We start from 3 years up. Obviously, although we are a kickboxing-based system, we don't make a big part of this. Not everyone has to compete. Not everyone has to fight. We're there for everyone. So we do 3 to 5. So it's all about the coordination, the focus, the discipline, and sort of building their foundations right the way through, obviously, to the guys that want to come into the gym and they want to fight. Mm. And we're happy to work with them, really. So
you do 6 or 7 days a week?
We're open 6 days a week. Sunday, we're open for things such as grading, squad training,
right, yeah,
special events, etc. Yeah. So, but we're there Monday to Saturday with a set timetable.
Okay. So, get down to the competition. So, I should probably give a bit of context of my background. So, I'm traditional Shotokan. So, our competition fighting is different as far as I understand, I'll probably get proven wrong, but we'll have various competitions throughout the year. You go, and it's a knockout system. You might have 5-6 fights in a day.
Yeah.
If you're lucky enough to get through. It's 1 point fighting, so it's a half point or 1 point and all done. There's no ring, so it's very traditional. So your competitive sparring is a boxing ring with a referee, and it's built up to one fight, or
predominantly so. Yeah, I mean there are various open tournaments throughout the year, where in theory a competitor might end up having 4, maybe 5 fights in a day. To be fair, most of them are smaller numbers than that, but in theory you enter. You don't know, it's an open event, so anyone can take part. But predominantly, of course, it's all based around the getting ready for the one fight.
Yeah.
Now, most people would start in what we call light continuous, whether it's light continuous kickboxing or K1 rules, etc., whether it's restricted contact. They're not allowed to win by knockout, etc., etc. That's mostly a format where people would start from before they decide to go into full contact, basically fighting normal, what I would call normal rules.
Knockdown sort of fighting.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
In the ring, obviously, and like you say, controlled by the referee with the 3 judges. Just how you would see a boxing fight, basically.
Okay, so if you're building up to that one fight, and you've got a new guy, girl coming to the gym, and they've started training, do you wait for them to make the move about whether they want to compete, or do you suggest to them that perhaps you'd be good at this? And what sort of point do you make that decision? Or
it's a good question, because it's part of the job, I guess. It's a delicate balancing act, because I mean, and we don't always get it right. So I know over the years I've said to people, look, I believe you have the potential to be a competitive fighter, and I think maybe you should think about going down that route. Now, some of them take that as well, I have to do it, therefore I don't want to do it, and they've gone. Equally, if you don't go to some people and say, look, well done, you're doing really, really well, you're progressing nice, you've got great potential, they can also feel that, well, he's not even looking at me, I'm working away and he's not giving me any recognition. So it's kind of part of the job. I suppose it is a skill that you learn, over a period of time. You think that, you've got a guy or a girl that's working really hard, that's got potential, then you go about talking to them. Look, you're doing well, you've got nice potential. I think there's a competitive career in you if you want to go down that route, and maybe you might want to consider that. Now, how you say that, and that's the important thing. So no one wants to be forced to do it. But equally, if you, like I say, you take too far of a step back, then they can feel, well, I'm ready to go. Some people just want to fight, want to compete, and if you don't recognise that early enough, you will lose them. What happens to a gym like mine, we've been well established for a long time, and we've always had a steady team of fighters. They act as the role model. So a lot of people come in and they will see them and they will aspire to be them, and that's doing half my job for me, really. So if I recognise that, I can see that, and I'm able to push them into the right direction. But just the bottom line answer, there is no 100% answer, really.
What sort of thing would trigger your perhaps this guy or girl's a fighter? What, the way they move, their timing, or is it a mixture of things? Or
well, 2 things. One, obviously, if they just actually come up to you and say, I want to fight, you're halfway there, because the desire to do it is half of my job. I've let them feel the rest. But from actually me looking at them, it's the work ethic. Above all else, it's the attitude and the work ethic when they come through to class. Because you can have all the talent in the world, all the technical ability in the world, if you haven't got that work ethic, you're not going to succeed. So if you see the young, the young guy, the young girl, and they are working hard. You can see that they make the most of every session. Then that's the little clue that you've got someone there that can probably go on to compete. And then, of course, it's how receptive they are to the challenges you set them. So we do sparring, okay? If you want to develop skill in a competitive style, you have to spar. There's
no way around that.
There's no way around it. There is no way around it. So when you get to that stage and you give them those challenges, and a lot of people don't take to sparring easily, some of them struggle with it, but that's not the point. If they persevere with that and show that they can take the challenge and come back and learn from it, that's a big plus. Obviously, equally, if they get hit in the nose and they get a nosebleed the first week and they don't come back for week 2, week 3 and week 4, that's also, it's unfortunate that happens, but equally, this is about character as well. It is about showing that you've got determination and overcoming your obstacles.
Yeah, and getting up after you get a smack. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's all important. Building your personality and your character and your resilience.
I guess I'm bound to say this. I should add at this point that it's very important that any coach conducts the sparring appropriately.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I wouldn't want anyone to think that in week 2 we're going to start smashing the hell out of each other. It's not going to happen. And I always say particularly to the parents of my younger fighters, I say, look, if you come into my gym and you see 2 guys in the ring really going at it, they're almost certainly 2 of my competitive fighters. It's not going to be like that. We're going to take the time to get to there.
Absolutely.
And equally, it's the role of your experienced fighters to know that when the new guy comes in and maybe he's not got the control he should have, and maybe he takes a shot at you, and maybe he catches you, you can't go punishing this kid. You need to bring him on as well. But I like to think that's the sort of atmosphere we've got at our gym. We don't have anyone that's going to have attitude and not help you out. It's a never-ending cycle of helping the new guys come through.
Yeah. So it's an attitude, it's a temperature sort of feeling in the gym that's there for you if you want it, and we'll help you get there if we can. Yeah,
and of course some of them become apparent very quickly. Yeah. And I won't mention my name, it's embarrassing, but I've got one at my gym at the moment where it was pretty clear within 3 weeks that he had something. And that was something that we could work with at a faster pace than someone else. Equally, some people just, over a period of time, maybe you've got to a stage you think you're not going to get anything more out of them, but then they step it up, and suddenly you think, well, you can do this. Mm. Yeah. But then that leads you to the next thing I was interested in, which is that period. So that when you say, right, this person can compete, they're interested in it. Yeah. Do you then just bring them on a bit and then look at a fight date? We put a fight date in and then you build a timetable around that? Or is there no timetable? There's a fight and just the way you go? No, I mean, they do need, obviously there is training. Yeah. Which they all do. And then there's training to be competitive. And they, by virtue of that, almost 9 out of 10 of them have to be able to step it up. What I mean by that is some people are training enough already, but very few. Some people are just training and then they have to step it up. So if they are going to compete, I've got this speech I've been saying to for years really to them, but I've got the discussion always revolves around a few things that if they want to take the step to move into the competitive arena, there's a few things they need to be aware of. Their training becomes so much more important. And their communication with me or my other coaches as the coach becomes more important. So for instance, if they're meant to train on a Monday night and for whatever reason they can't come, it's now not acceptable just to not turn up. What you have to do is communicate a quick message, especially in this day and age where we've got social media and text messaging. A quick message, can't make training tonight because of, and the reason's irrelevant really, but what I'm saying is that they need to tell me what they're doing. It's not good enough now not to just turn up. So that commitment to their training, the commitment to their coaching team, And of course, you've got things like discipline on their diet. Suddenly, what they eat becomes a little bit more important. You know, most people, I suggest, know common sense stuff of what they should and shouldn't be eating. Most people.
People.
Yeah, and for
does it need fine tuning or?
For most people, at introductory level, no. I think, like I say, we all know, for instance, that if we're going to be competing in 2 weeks' time, we're not going to be eating a McDonald's 6 days a week, you know, and drinking 4 pints of lager. That's probably flip, but equally, when we get to the higher level, when we've been developing a long-term career, and the issue of weight making becomes so important, coming in at maximum weight, maximum strength, then that's when that really comes into it. And you know, people like myself, we make use of nutritionists, etc., to help them through it.
So I get the feeling each timetable, what you do is tailored, obviously, to that fighter. Obviously, if they got weak areas, you help them in those bits, and they may not be the same for every fight. I'm
very lucky that we've got we've got our own gym, we've got the timetable, of course, and we have, for instance, if you join our kickboxing classes, we have a 2-tier class system. Everyone joins on what we call our basic class, and that includes everyone. So that includes people that are coming there for the enjoyment and keeping fit, and we welcome them with open arms and work with them equally. But then we've got an advanced class, which is where people will move up to when they want to take it to the next level. And then really in that advanced class, we set the level of training at the high point. I believe this is true of everyone, really. We don't set an average line, because all we end up with is average. So we push the training at the highest level, and it brings everyone through. So most of my people in my advanced class are already training enough to be able to cope with a competitive career.
Okay, so
obviously, if they are training, if they are moving up towards a contest, then if they're only doing 2 or 3 times a week, well, I need to see them 3 or 4 times a week.
Yeah.
And of course, there needs to be undertaken a program of running, and we also lay on extra sessions as well.
Yeah.
It's not unusual for us to be at the gym at 7:30 on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, doing your extras.
So we're doing extra sessions, really. Bottom line is, so that when everyone goes into the competitive ring, win, lose or draw, they've done everything they can possibly do to prepare themselves. And that's the only secret, really. If you can look yourself in the mirror and think, I've done everything I've done to get ready for this fight, you can ask no more.
Yeah. So that leads me on to the ring. Tell me about the fighter matching. How do you match fighters? Is it purely term service and time spent, or age, weight?
It's all them factors, really. I mean, obviously, I also promote events, so I see both sides of it. So from a promoter's point of view, various gyms will give me information, a fighters list, and you'll put 2 people together following the various criteria. So obviously, age and weight would be the first one. So for the sake of argument, assume they're both adults. So you've got 2 adults, then comes the weight. They must be within a weight range. So generally speaking, I'll give an example on a novice fight. If one is 70, you would match the fight at 70 kilos. But if one was 70 and one was 72, that would kind of be okay. The fight record, how many fights have they had? And that's those, you know, the age, the weight, and the fight record are probably the 3 main things.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The 4th aspect that comes in from promoter's point of view is you get to know the gyms. So, you know, so you'll get to know that that some gyms have a long list of champions, very successful record, always turn out really accomplished fighters. if you have another gym that, shall we say, is not as experienced as them, a bit more green with them, maybe their level of competence isn't as great as them, then as a promoter, you're going to want to be very careful of what you put together there.
Because you're looking at each gym, how they're doing it, how they're performing. That produces like a fighter competition engine, almost a machine. They've been competing a long time. They turn out people because there are those role models, there are those internal levels.
Yeah, and that would be, to be fair, that would be the same as anything. I mean, you know, not all football clubs are Liverpool, are they? They're all at different levels. Obviously, from a promoter's point of view, you want to put together the right fights. The matchmaking is the most important thing. You know, at the end of the day, when people go home from an event, they will remember the fights across the board, not just the fact that they saw their mate have a fight. They watch the rest of the fights and they're evenly matched. They're 50-50, call them what you like. Then people will remember that. So it's really important you get that right. Obviously, from a coach's point of view, the matchmaking is slightly different because my mentality is just about my fighter. All I want to do is to get my fighter matched. If you like, the worry of the other fighter is down to the promoter and the coach of that fighter. So, but I will apply the same thought processes really, because obviously if I get offered a fight, I look at the record, I look at maybe who he's fought. If he's had a few fights, maybe I'll know someone he's fought. And of course, the coach, who's his coach? Because, you know, there are some really, really top level coaches around. So if suddenly I'm up against someone who's been coached by one of these coaches, I'm going to be thinking, well, okay, is this the right fight for my guy? Yes, it is. I'm happy. We'll take it. But maybe, no, it's not. Maybe we need to wait 6 months for this one.
Yeah. So would your training delivery change according to the opponent?
Yes and no. Very often you won't know anything about the fight.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Particularly at the novice level. At the entry level, you won't do. But a scenario where your guy's had 5 or 6 fights, he's matched with someone of equal measure. The modern age being what it is, there's probably a YouTube clip out there of him. So you will do a bit of homework. If you've got that sort of information, you can gear certain aspects of your training towards that. So one simple example, if your guy is particularly tall, your opponent is particularly tall, then maybe you'll want to get sparring partners for your fighter of equal measure, if possible. So just one very simple way. If your opponent, particularly when you get into the top level, has got a particular way of fighting, and you can, if you're able to study that, and maybe you can come up with your own strategies, maybe you're going to try and work that. That's more about, you know, training towards a certain strategy. I'll mention one example. One of my fighters is one of my instructors now, Kelly Chubb. I mean, she fought really, really accomplished fighter from Scotland, Natasha Baldwin. Fantastic fight. And we watched Natasha for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And she had a really, really technical way of fighting. If you gave her the range, she looked brilliant. So we worked for ages on closing the ring down, making the ring as small as possible, pushing her onto the back foot, stopping her from having the range that she really liked. And to a certain level it worked. We got a draw. But you know, but that was a rare instance where you had that much material to work with. So at the lower end, you just don't have that. So
it's a mixed bag, isn't it?
It's a mixed bag. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was interested. I get the feeling at the novice level, you're going to be looking to build people's confidence and their mental strength a bit because it'll be completely new for them. Whereas at the top level, you might be fine-tuning a different way how they think about a fighter or how they react to certain situations, training certain reactions into them. Would that make sense? Or
yeah, no, you're right. I mean, obviously, when they start, they are all different, and they all develop at different paces. And some don't have the confidence that others have got, and that's something that maybe they will develop over a period of time. Mm-hmm. I've had more than a few fighters that at the beginning of the stages, I thought really don't have the confidence to do this. Either A, they've showed me that they have, or it's just something that we've helped to develop over a period of time. I think they will develop a confidence more in a fighter than if they believe in their ability.
Exactly. Yeah.
So one, if they can win a couple of fights, there you go. They win a couple of fights, and that will give them hopefully the belief in their ability. Obviously, as the coach, it's your job to underline that. If you can simply turn around and say to someone, "Look what you just accomplished. You have just beaten this guy, who's a fighter with 25 knockouts or something, and you've just beaten him." That's a very simple way that you hopefully increase their confidence. The more confident the fighter is, the more belief he has in himself, the better he will train as well. The better he will train. Everyone becomes a little bit better with more confidence.
Yeah, so that self-belief kicks in, reinforces, and if they stick with it, they get better and better.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, you've answered a lot of some questions. I was going to go with the fight matching with career, with weight, etc. But timing and distance, you mentioned that with a few minutes back with working with Kelly Chart.
Yeah.
So in Shotokan karate, timing is absolutely everything. It moves really, really fast. I would think it'd be the same thing as well. And you have drills to build somebody's timing up, make it really spot on and sharp?
Yeah, I mean, there is the timing that you're talking about. It's a different sort of timing, but it's still very much important.
Okay.
Some of the fighters will have a style that requires a great amount of timing better. So if they're naturally a counter puncher, for instance, there's that time of catching the opponent's jab to come back with their own shot. I mean, that's very much a timing thing. Bridging keeping the gap appropriate, a little bit of footwork, a little bit of timing to draw the opponent on. That's something that, to be fair, that comes very much from experience. You can drill it, of course, in the gym, but sparring, this is where we go back to sparring again. This is where sparring comes into it to be so important. And I know that there are sort of various schools of thought now about how much sparring a competitive fighter should do, both for development but also their own longevity, because let's be fair, we're in a sport where you are taking physical damage, so to spar too much can be a negative thing, but you still have to spar and getting the right amount of sparring with the right level of sparring to develop that, as you say, that little bit of timing, that little bit of distancing, etc. That's where you need the right sparring.
Well, then treading that line between just enough and overtraining.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I try and, with my guys, I try to do a lot of technical sparring where they're working at a sort of what I call 50%. I call it 50% sparring, where they're doing everything as technically correct as they can, but without that little bit of edge to the technique.
Got it. Yeah.
If for no other reason, because you can't spar hard all the time, you just can't. I'd state my opinion very clearly on that. You can't. And anyone wants to argue that's fine. That's their own opinion. But me personally, if you do too much hard sparring, it will have a negative effect on you physically. But the technical sparring does develop in other ways. It does give you the time to try things out. The hard sparring doesn't. If the fear of getting knocked out is removed, then you might try the little shot to the body that maybe you wasn't too good at last time, and maybe the second or third time it worked the second or third time, and maybe you think, okay, when we step it up a bit, I'm going to try it again, and maybe it works this time, and suddenly you develop another skill as well. But my guys do a lot of technical sparring, but obviously every so often we will step it up a little bit as well, because when they're getting ready for a contest, they will need to have their sparring will need to have a little bit of bite to it. Yeah. I do worry saying that, because everyone thinks they're suddenly going to walk into my gym and see people smashing their head out of each other. That doesn't happen. That just doesn't happen. But
well, you could do it, but it's got a very limited time span.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just something you said, probably when you think about the fallout after a fight, because you're overtraining and managing. How do you manage the motivation of a fighter after a victory? After a loss, I think come on, we can get on with it. We can do this. We can work. We can this. But somebody's had a really good victory, and trying to avoid the Ricky Hatton sort of thing. But how do you manage that fallout and keep the career going?
It's a difficult one. I probably have more success with it now. I think I've got a relatively young team of competitive fighters at the moment. A lot of them are teenagers. So therefore, hopefully they're not going to do the Ricky Hatton, like you say. They're not going to go out and drink 10 pints of Guinness. It's hard. I mean, in the past, I was sometimes I'd say, right, okay, off you go and have a week off and all the rest of it, which was fine with some people. But then you'd learn that for some, it was too much. They'd come back in a week's time. It actually probably wouldn't be a week. They'd come back in 10 days' time. Yeah. And in the 10 days off, they've gone from a 65 kilo fighter to a 71 kilo fighter. No. So I think that's too much. I like them all to cut. I have a sort of golden rule, if you like. If they fight on a Saturday or a Sunday, I want them back in the gym on a Monday. And there's two reasons I do that. One reason is for the benefit of the gym and those around them, because nothing sets a better example to your up-and-coming students than a guy that's came in, fought on a Saturday and Sunday, win, loss or draw, and he's there working around a Monday. So I think that's important. Also, from the fighter's point of view, it gives you a chance to maybe have that little chat, a couple of days reflection. What do you think about the fight? What do you think we did right? What do you think we did wrong? What do you think you could work on again? Sometimes, it might be an obvious one. But, you might get allowed to do something, and I've had this. I'm sure all coaches have had. Well, I don't think I did enough running. When I said I was running, I kind of wasn't. Well, there you go. You've just learned a very valuable lesson. Not all as straightforward as that, but there's always ways. But like I said, I think it's important to get back into the ring. Depending on where they are, on what stage. Maybe there's another competition coming up. Maybe you might say to them on that Monday, right, okay, I won't see you tomorrow night. Have a rest day. Rest is very important. I'll see you Wednesday, but maybe we won't start running again till next week. I must say at this point, obviously I'm very fortunate that having got my own facility, I am able to adapt the class timetable to suit myself. Yeah. Luxury some don't have. We do have a class timetable. It is structured, but when the guys get to competitive level, I do bend the rules a bit. I will say to them, come down tomorrow, come down that, or come to that class instead. Because I'm able to have that facility, if you like.
It sounds like the soft skills, people skills, the soft skills, they got better with. They got better with experience. But they seem to be really important with bringing on a good fighter.
Yes. Here's the most important thing about, for me personally, about being a good coach. You've got to want to be a coach. Yeah. It's pure and simple. And I don't want to be derogatory here, but there are certain people do come into it wanting to seem to be the coach. Mm-hmm. Because they like the idea of being there on fight night, etc., etc., etc. But it's no good doing that unless you're prepared to do the rest of the stuff. So if you want to be a good coach, you do take on everything else, and obviously you take on the training program. That's an obvious one. But you've got to learn the other skills. You've got to want to be involved with your fighters.
Mm.
You've got to be with them all, and that's sometimes difficult. If you've got a big team of fighters, it's difficult to be involved in, particularly when they're younger than you as well, because they're, you know, when they're 20, 30 years younger than you, it's not easy. But you've got to you need to be able to do that. Okay?
You've got to be in amongst it, haven't you? Yeah.
You've got to be in amongst it, and you've got to try and manage the different emotions, and that's difficult as well. Not always easy, you know. I mean, I always say this line: I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to be your coach.
But you invest so much in a student, or student fighter is the same thing. You invest so much. If you want to be a coach, if you want to be a coach, if you are a good coach, you're investing, aren't you?
Yeah. If that's what you like to, yeah. It's. Listen, I've said it. You know, if you want to be one of them guys that doesn't want to do it and just wants to, you know, teach your classes, and I could do that quite easily. You know, I could run my gym non-competitively, if you like. You know, good luck to you. You'll be less stressed than me. You know, but my passion is coaching. You know, and that's not gone away. In fact, it's increasing all the time. I'm as passionate now for it as I ever have been. That probably makes me two things. Makes me a very good coach for my fighters, because I want to do it. I've got a passion for it. I want things for them to achieve. Two, as their coach, it can make me a pain in the arse. Pardon my language. Okay, that's the best term I can use. It can make you a real pain, because, you know, I won't accept someone that won't give the best of what they do in training. You know, I won't let you drift. If I find out you don't go running, I want to know why you're not running. You know, and sometimes that's where it can become that's where the stresses of being a coach can come in. You know, but if you want to do it, you got to do it right.
So you love being a coach, and you're also promoted. You are a promoter still, aren't you? You did the Battle of Kent for quite some time, I think.
Yeah, and the combat zones for 25 years.
Yeah. So if you had to pick one, or you could only wear one hat, which you couldn't pick, you'd wear both.
No, I'm shaking my head, because this is a simple question. Coaching all day long. All day long. Yeah. Promoting is hard work. It's rewarding when it all goes off well.
Yeah.
Everyone sees what they see on the night, so they think you must be really happy with it. They don't see the months and weeks of work that you put into it. So the choice to your question is very simple. Coaching all day long. Coaching is a complete pleasure. It's hard work. It can be stressful, etc., etc. But the rewards are fantastic.
Yeah.
When you see a young fighter who maybe you thought wasn't going to be a fighter at all, and he wins a couple of fights. He wins one fight. Forget winning. He goes in there and performs to his full potential. That's a fantastic thing. Promoting is completely different. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the two events I run, even though they're different. We have the combat zones, which are our kind of higher profile professional events that we operate, and we run the Battle of Kent. The Battle of Kent is very much the novice platform.
Yeah.
On our last one, which was held very recently, we had 3 rings in operation, and we had 96 fights. They are organised chaos, is what I call them, but the atmosphere is fantastic. It's a mixed audience. It's kids involved. It's coaches all working together. The camaraderie is fantastic. Absolutely love the Battle of Kents. Combat zones are a different animal. There's a lot of hard work involved, and I've been doing them 25 years now. And as some people may have seen, I've just made the announcement. My next combat zone is going to be my last one, because I just think it's time to move on. But is that
a personal thing, or is that just for the competition?
It's a personal thing, really. I mean, obviously, it means I can spend more time on my coaching. You know, I now reached a point in my in my career, if you like, that I choose to do the things that I enjoy the most, which means giving up some of the things that I don't enjoy them so much now. Promoting takes up a lot of time. My gym is so busy. You know, the growth of my gym over the last 5 or 6 years, particularly, has meant that it pulls on my time a lot more in all the best possible ways. So suddenly having to stop teaching for a couple of hours, or working on my gym, or, you know, taking the dog for a walk with my wife, you know, to have to give that time up to spend 2 or 3 hours working on a promotion because a fighter has strained his calf muscle and can't fight anymore. That, you know, that's something I've chosen. Maybe I'm going to stop doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Sometimes you just got to focus on what's good, what's right, and what you enjoy.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So, moving a bit out of this to the professional boxing fighting ring, because I know you're really vocal on Facebook about fights. If you can't see a fight, especially on that one, and also your verdict on some fighters. I want to get your view on Tyson Fury and modern boxing, because for me, he's like unbelievably talented. And with the recent, I've just lost his name. Sorry. Yeah. The question I want to get at is that on a one fight basis, would natural talent rather than fitness and training win?
Oh, that's a hard one.
It is, because I'm not Tyson Fury. Trains hard, fantastic, but he can duck. He's obviously got a huge amount of talent. And Joshua, the fellow that fought Joshua, I can't remember his name. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the line that a lot of coaches give out, and me included. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work.
Boom. Yeah,
it's a corny old cheesy line, but it is correct. You can be as talented as hell, but if you don't put the work in, eventually you will lose. I'm not saying you'll lose every time, and you would, but eventually you will get caught out if you're not putting the work in.
Mm-hmm.
When you talk about the Tyson Fury, who's extremely talented, probably in the past hasn't been the most dedicated trainer. Although I think, to be fair, that could also seem to be as harsh on him as well, because he has put the work in. He stands for me as the #1 heavyweight in the world right now.
Really?
And as time goes by, I think people will appreciate what he did even more, where he came back from the best part of 30 stone in a period of a couple of years to winning the world heavyweight title. I mean, in fact, forget the winning the world heavyweight title. Just his performance in the first Deontay Wilder fight, which was the draw, of course, although I thought he won it. To come back to that was possibly the greatest comeback in heavyweight boxing. Because to go through what he went through, his mental health issues. I mean, I've only just finished his book last week, so. But you know, the mental health issues he confronted, the sheer physicality of losing 11 stone in weight. You know, some men walk around at 11 stone, and to come back and then have 2 very easy walkover comeback fights, and then to go in with the hardest puncher in the world, and to win it. Well, I think he won it, but to get the draw, it's just amazing. And of course, he's just gone from strength to strength, and just beating Wilder in the rematch, hands down as well.
Mm.
He's a fantastic boxer. You know, his public profile wasn't so good, shall we say, 2 or 3 years ago. But now he's a role model. I mean, the whole issue of mental health in sport, boxing in particular, was not even talked about. It was sort of becoming a bit of a subject. Well, Tyson Fury's smashed it onto the front page. You know, it's not a negative thing now to say that you're suffering from depression. And as it turns out, we're now finding out that lots of professional fighters, when they're packing up from their careers, are all suffering from mental health issues to some level or another. You know, just the sheer lack of training. They give up their competitive fighting, which means they give up their training, and suddenly their whole life is, some of them,
they're coasting on such a high,
yeah,
and then the next, nothing.
Yeah. But I think, you know, it's every level, because at every level, I think this should be thought about, because even if you go right to the novice level, to amateur boxing level, to, you know, novice kickboxing, whatever you like to call it, that high that these fighters get from that one moment in the sun, if you like, where they're getting, and you should remember that, you know, that most of the kickboxing events that we do and other people do are presented with lights and ring girls and razzmatazz and all the glamour that we can attach to it. That's a massive event in a young fighter's life, and they can have that massive moment, and then the next day they're back to normal again.
Yeah.
And so I think, I'm not saying that is the same level as a Tyson Fury, because the prestige and the level is so much greater, but it can affect all fighters, you know, or all sportsmen. You know,
yeah, I was just about to say, there's a
mental health issue is out there now, and probably Tyson Fury can take massive credit for that.
He's very instrumental in bringing it out there, and also as a role model of how to get over it, how to come back, as you say, and bounce back. Incredible performance levels.
Oh, wonderful!
I'm just in love with the way that the guy moves, he ducks, he dives, and he's phenomenal.
I mean, politics may keep it apart for now, but this hope we get to see him against Anthony Joshua, which would be the biggest sporting event this country's ever seen outside of the Olympics and the World Cup.
So you brought that up. It's not an area I'm 100% with, but you brought it up. So if that came off, you know what I'm going to ask? If that came off, which way would you be leaning?
Fury.
Yeah.
And I think most people are at the moment. That said, this is not a 100% answer. Anthony Joshua is a fantastic fighter. You know, his work ethic is like no other. You know, totally professional in everything he does. But I could see Fury outboxing Joshua.
Yeah.
And probably a stoppage towards the latter half of the fight. I think Joshua will be very competitive for 4 or 5 rounds. He's an animal to Wilder. He won't outbox Joshua like he did Wilder, because Joshua's skill set is so much wider. You know, the whole strategy of beating Deontay Wilder is stay away from the big right hand. But Joshua can box. You know, he's an Olympic gold medalist. His fundamental skills are very good. He's got a good jab. You know, and if he finds the target early with his jab, Fury's going to have some problems to deal with there.
But you think he'll ride it out to the last half?
I think he would ride it, yeah. You know, gun to the head, you know, bet my house on it. I'd have to
bet your gym on it, all your clothes, that's it.
Well, I'd have to go for Fury, yeah. But I want to see the event more than I want to see the winner. I want to see this massive fight, and hopefully it'll be here. I realise the money is probably in Dubai or Vegas, but it needs to be here, and I think they should put it on. And, you know, imagine 90,000 people at Wembley, everyone watching it in the UK at 10 o'clock at night or 11 o'clock. You know. Wow, what an event! What an event!
I think it'd be fantastic. That would be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, was you having bet your house, your gym, everything, your life savings on you. Anyway, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Colin.
Thanks so much. Much
appreciated.
Take care, mate. And you. Bye bye.